Hello! Today we'll be looking at this box from BetaFPV, but just before we get into that, as normal, please like or dislike this video if you didn't like it, comment down below, don't forget to subscribe, and if you can find it, click on that little bell icon, it'll tell you when I'm uploading stuff. So, what have we got today? It is a tiny little quad from BetaFPV. It's called the Meteor 65, and as it suggests, it's basically a 65mm motor-to-motor tiny whoop, and very much in the tiny whoop category, unlike many of the others I've been doing for the past year or so, which has been coming in around sort of 75-85mm. I think the original tiny whoop spec was sort of 68, maybe 65, but who knows. Anyway, the Meteor 65, which comes in this little box, looks like this. Absolutely teeny tiny, very much a specialist indoor, one would say perhaps an indoor racer, because the default camera angle is like 35 degrees, which for cruising around the house feels a bit pointy-uppy. There is in the box this would replace the little triangular holder inside the canopy and give you a 20-degree angle, which is a bit kinder. So all of 22 grams without the battery, 1S power, 22,000 kV 0802 motors, and it's your normal all-in-one board, F4 flight controller with ESCs, with an all-in-one camera and VTX. The big thing BetaFPV have been talking about on this quad, and it says so on the box here, is BT2. What is the BT 2.0 connector? So what you get on a normal tiny whoop style battery, like this little one, is this. This is a PH2 connector. And this looks quite different from the new connector, which is kind of like a miniature XT30 connector. I will show a close-up, hopefully up here on the screen. And the idea of this is there's less internal resistance, you can basically move more current through it, and so there's less sag. The idea being you can deliver that power better than in the PH2 connector. Of course, the one side effect of that is right now this is a proprietary format for BetaFPV, so it's not like these things everywhere, but these things are. But we'll see how it flies in a bit. So what you get in the box, we get the quad, this battery which was attached to it, one of the little underslung things, but elsewhere we get another one of those batteries. Then we get a couple of these BT2 to PH2 connectors, because obviously if you want to charge these batteries, they're not going to plug in a regular charger because they will have PH2 ends. So you plug them into the BT2 connector and plug them into your charger, and then you're away. Already talked about the little adapter to change the angle of the camera if you want to do that. We've got a BT2 connector with normal ends. I guess if you want to connect up to a different type of charge connector. Little card just showing some QR codes for the manual and stuff. And I got this. I don't know if this is part of the normal package. This is basically a little, it's called itself a power whoop, a BT2 power whoop connector, 2 sets. So what you get in here is some heat shrink and 2 sets of the male and female ends of the little BT2 connectors. So if you wanted to convert some other stuff over, you can do so. So let's find out how it performs when we take it for a flight. But before we do that, I need to just sort it out on Betaflight. This is the FreeSky FCC version. That basically means it's got an SPI receiver on the inside. Don't like SPI receivers, but for an indoor quad, absolutely fine, because you're not going to get a range. Outdoors is a different matter, and they're just a nightmare. But you can also get Futaba, DSMX, and plug and play. Anyway, let's get this up on Betaflight, see what needs to be changed, see how it's set up right now, and then we'll try taking it for a fly, see if we need to change the angle of that camera. Anyway, let's do that.
Okay, so let's go into Betaflight, see what we've got here, and it's turned upside down, of course, because the USB socket is on the bottom, not particularly easy to get to. And there's one useful thing in here, because it didn't mention anywhere on the specs that it has smart audio, but this seems to suggest it does have, and that's connected to UART2. No serial RX, of course, because we've got an SPI receiver. We're running DShot 600. I'm going to put motor stop on. We're running an 8K 2K loop, and we are running just Betaflight 357, which is interesting. I also note here that we are running FreeSky X instead of FreeSky D, which would be the D16 version. But the CPU load is relatively okay, so I might just try that and see how it goes. Funnily enough, the previous ones I had, which were running an earlier version of Betaflight and had the FreeSky D16 or FreeSky X, would have been would generally worked okay there. It's just when you got to a later version of Betaflight and they were running FreeSky X, they tended to lock up because the CPU load got very high. Anyway, what else we got here? Arming angle 180, we like that. Yep, that bit looks okay. Not much going on there. Power and battery, yep, that looks nicely set up. Bit tuning, looks like they've done some stuff. They put it on rate profile free, interestingly. Oh, that's interesting. We've got a very different looking rate profile there. We've got a 0 super rate, which would give quite a gentle setting. I wonder if they've got anything else set for the other things. Yeah, they've got several rate profiles here. So rate profile 1 looks like almost my normal, with some really weird stuff they've done on yaw here by whipping up the RC rate and lowering the super rate. What's rate profile 2 then? Rate profile 2 is the same. Rate profile 3 is set up to be very linear and very gentle. I would show you what that looked like, but I haven't bound it yet, which I'll do in a second. We've got the ATR channel map, which is good. RSI channel disabled. Yep. Mode set up. Arm angle horizon air mode. FPV angle mix is something I never ever use. It's supposed to mix in your, I think you're with roll or something as you're going around into turns. But it's kind of taking some of the what you should be doing yourself for you. And OSD not set up too badly. I'm just going to move some stuff around to this top corner as well. The reason I haven't bound it yet is because we're on 357, it's a different command. Normally we'd be used to doing SPI _ RX _ bind, or possibly RX _ SPI _ bind. Previous to that was bind. For a version this early, you have to do FreeSky bind and then save it. Then we should hopefully find, yep, we're all good there. So this is interesting because I really want to look at what that rate profile 3 looks like. I don't think it's something that's meant to be used. The yaw looks normal, but if you look at the max degrees per second on pitch and roll, if I try and pitch this forward now, this is full stick. Look at that. That is not something you'd want to do anything with. It's far, far too slow. So, yeah, don't touch. I'm going to set this up and then we're going to try and fly it and see what happens. Join me in a second. So, here we go on my first battery, and I'm just flying through the house here, as you might have discovered. And yeah, I'm pretty much bumping into everything. The thing I instantly notice is it feels like the camera's pointing up quite a way, especially coming down the stairs here. I'm almost doing that blind. And it's really reactive, not just on all the axes, but the throttle as well. It's got an amazing amount of power, something that I'm not expecting from a 1S quad. And essentially, I'm all over the place. And I have to say, it doesn't get any better on this battery. This camera angle is set up to fly fast in a straight line. It doesn't want to be going down these tiny little spaces I've got to fly around. You only have to just move forward just a touch, and that really goes for it. So first thing I did after this flight, which was a mess, was immediately get the quad back out and get the screwdriver out. Well, that would have gone really nicely if I was racing around a large indoor area like a sports hall, but in the house there it was a little bit too aggressive. So let's see how we quickly swap this out. And it looks like we just take them screws out and jiggle things out. So let's do that now. Oh yeah, you can see quite nicely how that stays in and the differences here. Oh, there's an extra screw just at the front there. I think I need to take this camera out first. Yeah. Then let me just slide this one in. Slide back in there. Like that. Not quite so aggressive. Okay, we are a little bit flatter. Not that flat. You can see that the
The angle on that one was quite a bit more, but you know, we'll see how that feels. Hopefully a bit better.
So here we are on the second battery with that 25-degree angle, and you can just see in the bottom corners of the screen the blue of the little ducks, and this is still some way ahead of what a regular Whoop or indoor quad would be. It would generally be about 10 degrees inside the house, so this is still a little bit weird, and the quad is still dizzyingly fast and powerful. So it's not like we had an instant like, oh yeah, this is brilliant, I can fly it now. This quad is not particularly easy to fly in a small space like this, and it really took some practice. So over the next 10 lipos or so, I just did more and more flying. So I'll take you through some of these and talk about what we did. So my first couple of batteries, it's still pretty wobbly. The difficulty here I found was throttle control. It was very much like trying to fly a power whoop on 2S battery indoors, where it's just all a bit overly reactive and it's quite hard to get that balance of the throttle right. So if you look here, you can see me sort of going up and down and doing all sorts. And I had plenty of opportunity to work on the turtle mode. That absolutely works fine, and it's just the right sort of shape for this. So after a little while, after about 6 lipos, I started flying in a 80% throttle rate. And I'm just showing some horizon stuff here, doing some flips. And you've got to manage the throttle very carefully for this. You don't want to overcorrect and zap that throttle up, else you will hit the wall. And this is me flying in that sort of 80% throttle mode. There is still a great deal of power there. I think this is lipo number 9. So finally at this point, I feel like I'm getting a hang of it. It's not perfect by all means. I still slam into stuff. My throttle control is still not perfect, despite it only being 80% of the range. But I'm really enjoying just what it can do. It can go so quick, and it really makes my house feel so small. It's just unbelievable. I kind of appreciate the challenge of flying this. I have to say, it's not an easy thing to fly. It does take some practice and some perseverance to understand what this can do, but because there's so much power there, this can do a lot more than a lot of whoops. And you can see the power just going up the stairs there, which is 80% throttle rate is still too much on about 65% throttle. As far as sort of being an explorer around the house quad goes, I mean, I could tune the rates down and make it easier on myself. I tried a bit of it. It's still not super easy because of the angle of the camera, but you know, it can be done. And in all these flights, I was getting between about 2 and 2.5 minutes, which is about on spec with what it says. As soon as it starts dropping anywhere near that 3.2, you've got to come down quickly because it will lose power. Although you don't have to land on yourself. Well, this little thing was quite a wild ride, and it did take me quite some time to get the hang of how to fly it. So I would say it's not your beginner quad. It's something for somebody who ideally wants to race it, and I think this really suits the sort of the sports hall type thing. And lots of people seem to be having whoop races there, sort of hiring a hall, putting up lots of things and racing these through it. With that 35-degree angle, you really get some speed. I mean, even on the 25-degree, it goes really quickly. I think that would be really fun. For around the house, especially a small house like mine, which is all cramped in, it's a bit trickier, and you've really got to take some time to get a hang of it and perhaps tune things down. Like I tuned that throttle rate down, so I didn't have that full percentage at the end of my stick. So number one thing I can say about this is the power. It's just more powerful than any 1S Whoop I've had. It feels very much like I'm flying a regular quad miniaturized down. It's got that absolute top end. When you pump the throttle, it's straight up on the ceiling. You really have to be careful about how you work this. And that's what happens when you have a powerful quad in a tight space. It's quite difficult to stop yourself banging into things, so you may have to tune things down and stuff. But I guess that power comes at a price, because these batteries, good as they are, and as you know, if we're to believe the BT2, it's delivering a lot of power, and hence we're getting a lot of power out of it. But 2.5 minutes tops out of these batteries,
you'd need plenty to really have some fun with it, because I only had the 2, so I was flying, recharging, flying, recharging, repeat over and over. Ideally, what I'd like to see for flying in a place like mine is an angle of the camera of something like 10 degrees or even a flat. That will give it more of an exploring quad, and that way you could really, if you wanted to, tune everything right down to make it nice and docile if you wanted just to, you know, go around really tight spaces slowly. As it is, even if you tune everything down, because you've still got that certain amount of angle, you always have to going back to look at stuff, and if you're sort of just flat, you're always going forward, and at this little thing goes quite a speed forward. For me, I enjoyed it. I found it quite challenging to fly, especially at first, but basically a bit of practice and knowing how it's going to respond to stuff, and you get the hang of it. And as you get used to how it will respond and what it will do, you find you can do a lot more with it. And the difference between this and a regular whoop is, because you've got that much power and that much speed, you can do manoeuvres in a house that you wouldn't normally be able to do. So if you're into your indoor racing, take a good look at this one, because it's really got some power and really got some speed there. If you're into indoor flying and you're more of an explorer one, it's probably not going to suit. But if you've got a larger space and you really want to rip around quickly and do flips and rolls and silly things like that inside, then this may be the sort of thing for you. But I would suggest you either get more of these batteries or more of these little connectors, so you can hook them up to your existing batteries before you fly it. As I'm recording this on the 27th of November, it's very close to Black Friday, and BetaFPV, who provided this, of course, are having a Black Friday sale, and I do notice that one of the Meteor 65 special editions is in that sale, so there's links down below for where you can check that out. So if you're interested, check it out in the Black Friday deal, see if you can get some money off. For now, this has been the BetaFPV Meteor 65, kindly supplied by BetaFPV, so many thanks to them. As I mentioned before, there's links down below if you want to check this out in more detail. And until the next time, I hope that's been helpful, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye for now.
Well, you've made it to the end of the video, so thanks once again for watching. If you like what you saw, then please consider subscribing, and if you really like what you saw, then be sure to check out the link to my blog for a variety of ways in which you can help support this channel.